By far, the question I get asked the most on this channel is, yo, what's the orange thing on your camera? Or for those who know, what kind of L bracket do you use? And I use three-legged thing L brackets. I have the brand new one, which is called the Ellie, and I'm gonna get to talking about the Ellie, but first I kinda wanna talk about L brackets in general. I didn't use an L bracket for ages. In fact, the first 6 years of my career, I didn't use an L bracket. And my buddy Jeff Bartlett always kind of just used to make fun of me and go, why don't you use an L bracket? How do you shoot without an L bracket? And I was like, I can just flip the camera down and hang it below the tripod. And it works. And he always shook his head and laughed at me. I always didn't understand why I needed an L bracket. I definitely didn't understand why I wanted to pay $150 for an L bracket. It just wasn't something I could afford or really thought that I needed. Then a couple of years ago, Three-Legged Thing sent me a message and said, hey Brendan, we've developed a universal L bracket. It's only 50 bucks. We'd like to send one to you. And I was like, you know what? Free stuff? I love free stuff. This video is not a sponsored post. I just like their stuff. And I like free stuff. Anyways, Three-Legged Thing sent me the L bracket. And I was like, I'll give it a try. I threw it on my camera, and within a week I was like, why haven't I been using this my whole life? How did I ever live without an L bracket? And anytime I have my camera without the L bracket in a traditional bracket quick release, I'm just like lost. So on this episode, I want to now take you out into the field and show you why you want an L bracket. The reasons why an L bracket will make your life easier as a photographer. And then after that, I want to talk about the new L bracket by the Three-Legged Thing. And I have a little bit of a gripe with it. I love it, but I have a little bit of a gripe with it. So let's jump into the field in Patagonia and then we'll get to that. Okay, so we're out in the field here in Chilean Patagonia at the Cuernos in Pine Grande, and it's terrible weather. Well, not terrible weather, you just not great photography weather. So I'm going to talk about the reasons you get an L bracket, why you get an L bracket, what are the advantages to like a regular quick release plate. The first one is slippage, and no, that's not what happens to Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl, but it's when you hold your camera down like this. When you hold it like this, let's say that you don't tighten your tripod ball head tight enough and you're taking a long exposure photo, your lens can kind of slide down like that. The other thing that can happen is if your quick release isn't tight enough, or it's just not a really great quick release, you can also have this part of the thing twist on the camera as well, and you get just a little bit of slippage. And what can be annoying is when the slippage isn't noticeable. So it's not like this is happening in an exposure, but just a tiny little bit, and you can't figure out why your image is sharp. Or when you have a L bracket, it's like this, and it's not gonna slip, it's not gonna move, it's gonna be more stable. The second reason is for stability, because when you're on a L bracket, your center of the weight of the camera is straight on top of the tripod. It's as stable as it can possibly be, rather than hanging off on the side, dangling a little bit. The next reason, reason number 3, is let's say you can't get your tripod level. Let's put it like this. In an imaginary situation, let's say that your tripod's like this. Just for whatever reason, nature doesn't allow you to. And then you go down like this, you cannot physically get your camera level. So you spin it around, you flip it like this, and then it's still a bit of a battle to get it level because you only have a tiny little bit of room to work with. Again, when you have an L bracket, you pop it on the tripod, and it doesn't matter if your tripod's level or not, you can always level it out. You got all this room to work with.
Morning, how are you?
Am I in your frame? Oh, the light's popping. The light's popping, so I gotta be quick. The other reason you use it is for panos. So let's pretend my tripod's straight again, flat again, and you wanna do a vertical pano. It's really easy because you get the pano, you get your pano plate, and you're like that. It's super simple. If you have it down like this, it's a little bit harder to get it totally level. I mean, it still works, it's just a little bit harder. So that's the 4th reason. The 5th reason is probably the most important reason. It just looks cool. I mean, look at how cool this thing looks. This is the Three-Legged Thing Ellie. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you don't need a three-legged thing. I just like this one because it's cheap, affordable, and you can kind of manipulate it to add other things like mics or flashes or things like that. So we're back, And this is the old school three-legged thing, universal L bracket. It's great, it's sturdy, it's orange, which is awesome. But the one problem with it is because it's universal, it's a little bit big. So in some cameras, it sticks off the camera a little bit, especially the smaller mirrorless cameras, which isn't a big deal, but it's definitely more attractive to have an adjustable one. So enter the new three-legged thing L bracket, which is called Ellie. And Ellie is totally customizable. They say it's basically customizable to any camera, or at least a huge number of cameras. And I only have 3 cameras, so I can't confirm that, but they say it is. And it is an awesome product because of its adjustability. You have down here on the bottom, you have this part of the L bracket, you can actually shift forwards or backwards, which is super handy if you have a flippy screen. Most L brackets kind of get in the way of the flippy screen, but because you can shift this down lower on the camera, it's totally out of the way. So this is my EOS R. If I go like this, I can flip it all the way out. If I want to twist it, I can twist it. If I want to go vertical, I can see the whole thing. So it's awesome that you can do that. It's awesome, that little bit of customizability. There's also these tiny little screws in here. And if your camera is bigger or smaller, you just loosen them. And then it slides out and in like that really quick. And yes, the Allen tool comes with the three-legged thing L bracket. So now it's adjusted, it's a little bit farther forward. I still have access to the mic. I still have access to the intervalometer. I still have access to the headphone jack. So it's all right there. My gripe with this thing is though, that when I got it, it was actually flipped around. And yes, you can flip this part around, but it was flipped this way. And what would happen is when I would put the camera onto my tripod like this really long part that's now down here was actually sticking out here. And by the time this piece of metal wraps around with a gap in the middle, it was really weak there. You could actually bend it with your hand, which obviously isn't ideal, especially if you're somewhere like here in Patagonia where you just get battered with winds. So that wasn't ideal, but I did switch it around so that now the gap's on the top part, and then I can attach my tripod right there, and it's definitely sturdier now. It's definitely fully sturdy. There's no issue at all. It's 100% sturdy. But I find it a little bit frustrating that they added this gap. I think this innovation is clever on their side. It's nice to have that available, but it's kind of silly that it's right in the middle, because if I want to clip my camera on right in the middle of the camera, it either goes right across or I have to put the tripod at the bottom or the top, and then it's not straight in the middle of the camera. It's not as sturdy as I wish it was. So that's my one and only gripe. I think they could have done without this gap. I think they should have done without this gap. And I get that they probably needed it for some customizability features with certain cameras, but I wish that wasn't there. For me, it's a little bit annoying. That being said, I still like it better than the classic original. The classic original is sturdy and strong, but this one's just nice because it attaches right onto the camera, doesn't get in the way of the flippy screen, and yeah, I like it. So I'm happy, and I'm happy to be in Patagonia. We've been kind of getting off and on weather, but yeah, it's been an amazing trip so far. And on the next episode, I'm going on a hike, an overnight camping shoot with Thomas Heaton and the crew to a place called Laguna Torre, and it should be amazing. So I hope to see you guys there. Peace.